The jungle is alive with sound. Rain falls, insects buzz, and somewhere beyond the tree line, thousands of Japanese soldiers wait in silence. At Henderson Field, Marines crouch in foxholes, clutching rifles. In the weapons platoon, mortar crews prepare their 60mm tubes. Tonight, they will test a weapon born not in America, but in Paris, the creation of an unlikely inventor who once forged jewelry instead of guns. When the attack comes, it will be the largest bonsai charge of the Pacific War. Thousands of soldiers rushing headlong into the American lines. And when it does, the Marines' secret weapon will prove itself in fire and steel. This is the story of Edgar Brandt's mortar, the French invention that became America's hip-pocket artillery, and how it reshaped modern warfare. Our story begins far from the Pacific battlefields in the city of Paris. On Christmas Eve, 1880, Edgar William Brandt was born. A silversmith by training, he crafted elegant ironwork, jewelry, and intricate designs. But when the First World War broke out, his skills turned toward destruction. Brandt saw the problem firsthand. Soldiers needed a weapon that could arc explosives over trenches, yet remain light enough to move quickly. His solution was revolutionary: a mortar with an aerodynamic bomb, stabilized grooves, and a simple firing system. In 1925, he patented his design. The brilliance of Brandt's weapon was not in raw power, but in balance. Light enough for infantry, powerful enough to devastate enemies beyond the reach of grenades. Little did he know, this creation would one day dominate battlefields half a world away. By the 1930s, the United States Army faced a dangerous gap in firepower. Grenades could only reach 75 yards. The larger 81 mortar hit targets nearly 3,000 yards away, but between them lay a deadly void, a range where enemy troops could gather, attack, and overrun American positions. The Army needed something portable, precise, and deadly. In 1938, the War Department purchased 8 of Brandt's mortars. American engineers at Watervliet Arsenal studied them, refining the design into a weapon suited for U.S. mass production. The result was the M260 mortar. Lightweight, reliable, deadly, a weapon that any infantry company could carry into battle. And as the world hurtled toward war, America would need thousands of them. When the contracts came in 1940, American industry roared to life. The Reed Machinery Company produced the first batch. Firestone Tire and Rubber joined soon after. By the war's end, more than 60,000 mortars had been built, each one a weapon of war shaped by American factories. Watervliet Arsenal, employing over 9,000 workers, became the beating heart of production. It wasn't just a factory, it was where Brandt's French idea became an American weapon. For the first time, devastating indirect firepower was available to infantry commanders. Soldiers nicknamed it their hip pocket artillery. That pocket would soon be opened on Guadalcanal. October 1942, Guadalcanal. The Japanese 2nd Division, 3,000 men strong, launches a furious night assault on Marine positions around Henderson Field. It is a tactic that had crushed the British in Malaya, the Dutch in the East Indies, and the Chinese on the mainland, the bonsai charge. But tonight, the Japanese face something new. Marines load illumination rounds. The night sky explodes into brilliant white. Suddenly, thousands of attackers are caught in the open. Then the mortars switch to high explosive. Steel rain falls in devastating arcs. The charging soldiers are shredded by overlapping bursts, pinned against barbed wire, gunned down under blinding light. By dawn, over 1,500 Japanese soldiers lie dead. The Marine line holds. The bonsai charge, once feared, has been broken. And the M2 mortar has proved its worth. As the war raged on, the mortar adapted. It could fire 3 main rounds. The M49A2 high-explosive shell, killing anything within 17 yards. The M83 illumination round, turning night into day. And the white phosphorus shell, a terror weapon that burned everything it touched. Company commanders began to rely on the weapon for flexibility. Machine guns suppressed the front, mortars destroyed the flanks. Artillery was no longer the only answer. Infantry could now call their own firepower. The Japanese had their own light mortar, the infamous knee mortar. But with a range of just 75 yards, its operators had to crawl dangerously close to the fight. By comparison, the M2 could strike from over a mile away. The advantage was clear. The story of the M2 is not just one of design and industry, it is also one of men. On Okinawa, Technical Sergeant Buford Anderson found himself under attack. Out of ammunition, he picked up Japanese mortar rounds and hurled them by hand. Then, spotting a crate of American shells, he armed them by smashing the safety pins on rocks and threw them like grenades. His desperate act killed 25 enemy soldiers and destroyed multiple positions. He was awarded the Medal of Honor. On Peleliu and Okinawa, Marine Eugene Sledge recalled how mortars could reach where artillery could not. By triangulating 3 tubes, his unit annihilated 50 Japanese soldiers hiding in a ravine. Mortars had become precision tools of destruction. By 1945, America's industrial machine was unstoppable. In just 8 months, 30,000 new mortars were produced, nearly as many as in the previous 3 years combined. Every infantry company, every marine unit, had its hip-pocket artillery ready for battle. The Japanese still fought with courage, but courage alone could not stop the weight of American firepower. On Iwo Jima, 21,000 defenders waited in tunnels and bunkers. American mortars rained shells into caves, reverse slopes, and hidden fortifications that artillery could not touch. After 36 days of brutal combat, the island was taken. The cost was horrific, 24,000 American casualties, but once again, the M2 mortar had been decisive. The war ended in 1945, but the M2 did not. It served in Korea, in Vietnam, and with allied armies across the globe. Only in the 1970s was it finally replaced by the M224. But its legacy endured. Edgar Brandt, the Parisian ironworker, had created more than a weapon. He had given soldiers firepower that was immediate, mobile, and decisive. On Guadalcanal, Okinawa, Peleliu, and Iwo Jima, the M2 mortar proved that industry, innovation, and adaptability could break even the fiercest enemy. It symbolized a new kind of warfare, one where courage met technology and where nations with industrial might could turn the tide of history. The Japanese bonsai charge died not in China, not in Malaya, but at Henderson Field, crushed under the steel rain of Edgar Brandt's invention. The M2 mortar was more than a weapon. It was a symbol of America's ability to take an idea, mass-produce it, and place devastating power directly in the hands of ordinary soldiers. And in doing so, it helped decide the fate of the Pacific War.